I want to just first start by doing an introduction and just introducing myself, introducing Courtney, introducing SJ, and then we'll jump right into the questions. The way that we're going to do the questions is I'm going to ask, and I'm going to alternate, question for Courtney, question for SJ, and we're going to try to answer them briefly, and if we have time, do a short Q&A at the end. But I'd love to just get started with introductions with you and then work our way this way.
Oh, great. Hi, everyone.
Okay?
Yep. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. My name is SJ Luedtke. You can just call me SJ. The last name is a big mouthful, but I am the Chief Marketing Officer of the Houston Dynamo and Houston Dash.
Yes.
Glad you know them. Thanks. That makes me feel better. So I have spent most of my entire career working in or around sports, completely unintentionally, and also ended up in marketing unintentionally. I was going to school to be a doctor and then decided I didn't want to go to med school and met some people, and here I am many years later. So happy to be here. I'm new to Houston. I've been here just over a year, and I'm really excited to be here with you all tonight.
Welcome to Houston.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to Houston. All right. Now I'd love to hear your brief intro.
Very brief. I'm Courtney Savala. I'm so glad to be here, seeing a lot of familiar faces. Thank you so much for the invitation. Love meeting you two today. And this is so funny because we just found out I'm from Chicago originally. She's from Wisconsin, but she lived in Chicago. I actually was going to be a doctor too.
No, get out.
Yeah. I started college with a pre-med major and made my way through 3 years and was like, yeah, no.
Right around the MCAT time?
Yeah, I was like, this is not going to be good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go into TV. That seems like less brains. So that's exactly what I did. I spent the majority of my career has been on television. I've worked for all 3 networks across the country. And I can tell you right now, even though I was saying I did want to go into pre-med, I don't know why. I wanted to be an eye doctor and a foot doctor at one point. Don't ask me that question, but I know I've actually had 3 surgeries on my feet. Maybe that's why. But anyway, you're gonna have to reel me in. I got lots of side stories, but I know. But it was the job I always wanted. At 8 years old, I knew I wanted to be on TV. I wanted to be a reporter. I wanted to be on the streets and tell stories. And I'm so glad that I can sit here today and say, gosh, I wanted that job and I got that job. And it was pretty awesome to be able to do that. I had to move from Chicago to Midland, Texas. Didn't even know where that was for my first television job, and was hooked from that point forward. And it was a grind for 24 years. We'll talk more about that later, but that's basically it.
Perfect. That's a great stopping point, because one of my questions is about that pivot and that transition. And I think something we can take away already is that there's no straight path to success. It is a narrow, crooked path. And to also echo off of that, I have a finance degree and I worked in accounting for 8 years until I decided, I was like, this just isn't for me. I don't know if I'm supposed to be in a cubicle. I think I was destined for greater things. And you just have that inside you, and and that's why you're here today. Because you want to be out there. You want to be on social media. Believe it or not, there are people that don't want to be on social media. There are people that don't do it, that they don't consume it. They just shy away from the camera. And you're different because you're already here, because you're already a creator. You're already wanting to be seen. So that just speaks, to the audience that we have here today. So on that note, I guess I'll go and just briefly introduce myself, but I did tell you just a little bit about my backstory just now. Fast forward to 2014, which is 10 years ago, I had become successful in marketing through my previous job. And once I left oil and gas, I kind of niched into social media or just pivoted into social media early on. I was selling a luxury lifestyle marketing good. It was a private membership to a private club. And I wasn't even in sales, but I started to do LinkedIn and Facebook posts about what I was doing for work. And leads started coming through my DMs and my sales funnels. And lo and behold, I started selling and becoming a transactional salesperson. And my boss gave me a bonus incentive. Well, at the time I was 25 years old, and I was like, oh, you mean I can make up to unlimited amounts of commission if I just keep selling? So I went and used my LinkedIn and my Facebook to sell $2 million worth of memberships in a year. And for a 25-year-old, like making a huge amount of income, I mean, that was crazy. That was surreal, you know? And it was a time in my life where my boss said, whatever you've tapped into, whatever you're doing, this is it. This is your gift, and you've got to pursue that. And he's one of my mentors, and I still keep in touch with him today. But I was just early to the game. I was early to the social media game. We're talking about 15 years ago. And so fast forward to 2014, 10 years ago, I started Social Behavior, and it's been a lot of twists and turns even with that agency. But 3 years ago, I started Influence by Social, and I couldn't have done that without the assistance of Selena, who's been our influencer coordinator. Yeah. So I'm at a point in my life where I can only execute if I have the right people on my team, and I feel like I really do have the right people on my team, and I'm thankful for everyone on my team that's here today. But yeah, we started Influence by Social 3 years ago during the pandemic because we weren't able to have events like we used to. So we had to create campaigns and create opportunities for brands to align with influencers. And here we are. Our influencer community has grown, and we do, all types of campaigns. You guys get the emails, so I appreciate y'all being here. This was just our way to give back and just gather everybody around in a place where we don't have to post today. This is not about a collab. This is just about let's just meet and get to know each other on a personal level, because you guys are all like-minded people. So on that note, I will just kick us off and start with my first question. And if y'all are okay with that, I'll start with Courtney. Ready?
Sure.
Cute, cool. So, okay, so we talked about your transition. You're in TV. This is just where you wanted to be. So what was it like to pivot from that long time career where it was a safety net for you and take a leap of faith into becoming a full-time influencer?
It wasn't easy. I mean, it's only been a year. And, but for me, I felt like it was a natural next step. Mm-hmm. I'm a storyteller at heart. My life was already on a public platform. I was already sharing pieces and parts of my world, to an extent that I was under contract. By the way, over my 20 plus years on television, I never owned my NIL or never. Someone else, an entity, always owned my own name, image, and likeness. Mm. For the first time in my life, I own it today. That's pretty powerful. And because, everything, my name, everything was owned by somebody else. So to be able to have that in my power is just something that I never thought I would be able to do. And it's really incredible to be able to say, I'm not doing that today. That doesn't fall in line with my views or what I want to do in my life or share or whatever. I'm in control of that. That's a big, big deal. There's so much that's changing, obviously, in the sports world, for collegiate athletes or just collegiate students in general. So there's so much evolving there, which is really unbelievable. But for that pivot, it wasn't, it wasn't easy because there's not a book, there's not a handbook for anybody to say well, you're doing this today. This is what you're going to start creating your own content. Yeah. Here's the manual.
Yeah, there isn't a blueprint.
No. And so it's like throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks daily. Exactly. Daily. We fake it until we make it, right?
Exactly. Well, that's very neat. Like that you were behind the camera for so many years and you were the one interviewing people, and now we're interviewing you. So kudos to that.
Thank you.
Give yourself a hand.
Thank you.
So my next question is for SJ. So we're just going to alternate here. And I want to know, NIL deals. That's a huge topic. I left that out of our questions, but we can have a whole discussion on that. NIL deals, we get pitched by athletes all the time, to collaborate with them and use their NIL. But I want to ask you, so how does the Houston Dynamo and the Houston Dash define success when it comes to an influencer partnership?
Yeah, I think first of all, when we look at who we want or ask to be part of telling our story, I think first place we start with in order to be successful is authenticity, right? You have to be somewhat connected to whatever it is you're all, being asked to be a part of, right? And I think to your point, being forced to do that because it's your job, but having the option to connect with brands and companies and other people, you want to make sure you have an authentic passion for it or connection to it. I think that's where success starts, and not forcing something that isn't somewhat natural, somehow, some way, however that works out. So I think that's where we start in order to be successful. And then I think for us, it's really being open to new ideas and maybe getting out of our comfort zone, because I think that's where the real success is, where you are willing to put your brand in the hands of someone else to allow them to bring it to life in a way that's going to connect with others that might see it from a new point of view, or, you know, maybe not even have known about it, but because they're connected to you all and you're giving, serving it up to them through your connection to it. But you gotta trust the people working with you, and put your brands in their hands. And I think that's, you know, for us, kind of those two steps. But that one's really, when you start out, it's a little nerve-wracking, right? Because you don't know what people are going to put out there sometimes. Because if you filter it too much, then it doesn't become authentically connected to you all. So
I love that. It's that authenticity, and to corner back on what you said, it's you had a foundation. And so when you're looking for an influencer to partner with, a lot of times if a brand sees that all you do is just sell, add, sell, and you don't actually have like a foundation, you're not authentically sharing your story, that is something that brands look at. And it is nerve-wracking for brands to trust an influencer with their brand, because it's their baby. So there's a big emotional connection. And that's why brands use agencies like us, because we buffer through that and we're able to tell you like, hey, we want it like this, or you know, not like that, and this long and this type of song, you know, just so that we can kind of not control it in a way where the authenticity is compromised, but to where it's just, you know, makes both people happy with the result.
And I do think, just to add to that, I think in this stance, there needs to be a give and a take between both, right?
Yeah,
like it needs to fit. It can't, otherwise the whole campaign will fail. Right. It's either not going to be authentic on our end, or you're not going to be happy, right? I mean,
and the consumers see that, right? The people
it is so obvious. And you guys know that. You know that when you're scrolling. You know, the feeling, the gut, and you know it. Where it's like cringy and you're like, oh, that was just to get a paycheck. Like, you know it. It's okay to turn it down. It's okay to turn it down if it doesn't work for you.
Oh my God. Well, let's jump to that. So I'm going to skip over my second question. I'm just going to go with, are you selective with the opportunities that come your way? And if so, what criteria do you use to determine what projects you take on?
Yes, 100%. And, you know, look, I have under 40,000 followers, right? So in the last year, I built that up. I think in January, Kate might remember this, was it like 12,000 or something, right? Over the last year. None of those were bought followers, none of them, you know, none of that. It was all organic. And there's a reason for that, because I am so used to falling under the standard of ethical, right? Like, and not for any other reason, but that was like, ooh, I can't really say that because it's not fair. You know, I was very cautious my entire career. And I take those same standards and apply it today, because it's who I am. I'm never going to talk about something that I don't consume, poop out, swallow, spray, buy from, you know, I mean, seriously, I'm not pushing something that is not in my house, in my kids' closets, in my car, nothing. Because I'm not an actress. My face says it all. Like, what, you know, like, it just, I try. Everybody, Kimbrell Marshall always told me, you've only been here a year, but he's our meteorologist. He was always like, I wish you would just learn how to express yourself. Like, you know, it was a joke, because like, you know exactly what I'm thinking. Yeah. There is no hiding it. And so you've got to be really transparent. But yes, I have turned things down when it didn't align with me. And, you know, yes, it's attractive to get the deals and the checks and the paycheck at the end, but it doesn't make me feel good if it's not a good fit, right? And you guys know that.
I always say the real flex is in being asked.
Yes,
Okay? That's the real
100%.
flex, all right? But you don't have to take on everything, and you don't have to go to every
Because
event.
not everything's going to work.
Right. Well, I love that. I love that answer. Okay, I'll go back to SJ. So I want to know if maybe you can share an example of a particularly successful collaboration or partnership that the Dynamo have been involved with, and what made it successful.
Well, I would say I think we need to be doing more because we've done very little, but it's hot on our radar. So
Perfect.
I already told Karen that I'm probably going to take her to lunch here after this. I think, we've been lucky enough to work with, we did it recently with a artist, and I am forgetting his name. This is horrible. I'll look it up later. But it actually came to us through Apple TV. So Apple TV is the broadcaster for our MLS Dynamo games. And they came to us and said, hey, there's this Hispanic he's an influencer, but he's famous for basically shaving / painting portraits into people's heads. And I was like, this sounds crazy. Really?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, let's give it a go.
Yeah.
And so we trusted him with one of our head Dynamo star named Hector Herrera. And I'll find it and send it, and you can share it with the group.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I watched it. I was engaged. I thought it was the craziest thing ever, and I was thinking, who would let him do this to their hair?
Yeah.
Because it's going to grow out, I guess. But we saw great engagement by doing that collab with him and trusting it. I was like, this feels a little off brand for us, but again, you got to let your brand be expressed and trust the people to do it that's authentic to them. And then it's going to open up a whole bunch of conversations and opportunities for people to get to know who we are. And in this case, who Hector is. So that one was like literally last week, and the engagement around it was phenomenal. So I'll share that link with you, and you can pass it out to everybody.
I'd love to see it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm going to just toggle back so we can just get going here because we're a little bit over on time. Okay, so we know, you're being selective. We talked about, determining which projects you're going to take on. So I want to talk about a follow-up question is, how do you set your rates, and how do you unapologetically stay true to that?
I have no idea.
Oh.
No. It's one of those questions, right? Like when there's a lot of, and I hope you have people in your life. There are people that in your life that you lean on, right? You have your core group that you, for business or for friends, that you can say, hey, listen, I'm trying to build this. Like a year ago, I didn't have a rate sheet. I had no idea what any of y'all charged. No clue. And then I was competing with people. I had the name recognition, but I necessarily did at the time. And I'm still growing.
Yeah.
I didn't have this huge following, but people here knew who I was.
Right.
So I had that.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of asking questions and asking people that like, and trust, right? I mean, those are the 3 criteria of why they're your friend or confidant or mentor. So that's where I went from that. I asked around. I built it. I took a lot of feedback from a lot of different people. And, in selling myself and pitching myself, I always talk about how I'm a storyteller. You have to figure out what that one thing is that's going to set you apart from the thousands of other people that you're competing with, right? And it's hard not to take from other people. Like, we scroll all day long. Yeah. And so we're constantly trying to figure out, like, what's the next best thing? Yeah. Like, how are we going to get the next hit or whatever, right? Yeah. So I feel like if we're true to ourselves and you're talking about your strengths and what is going to separate you from the others, I think that's huge. And, on somebody that would hear my story, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, what's going to set you apart from everybody else doing the same thing?
And we go back to that. We go back to the foundation. So here she is, 20-year-long TV career. That is the foundation that precedented your career as an influencer. And so I always tell people that too. When you work with me, I'm not just an influencer that started 3 years ago. Like, I'm a 10-year seasoned business owner. So that's my foundation. That's what I bring to the table. But I think everyone can kind of, lean into that. We got to build something and work off of that. Okay, so follow-up question for SJ. What are some common mistakes or pitfalls that creators should avoid when approaching brands like the Dynamo or partnership opportunities?
Oh man, I know. I read that on the pre-read. I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to answer that if she asks me? I think, it's, well, one, I just have to say, I'm so impressed that y'all put yourselves out there, because you were talking about it. I hate getting my picture taken. I hate being in a post. It's like, it's not my thing. So I admire people who like fully embrace that. Yeah. So one, I just had to say that because I was thinking about it earlier. What pitfalls? I think it kind of goes back to, don't try to fit into what you think they're looking for. Yeah. Think about, what's your elevator pitch? What's your foundation? And if, and also do a little homework, right? Make sure you kind of understand what their brand is about, or where you might have that intersection point that could, not just be someone sliding into the DMs saying, I think we should partner because I've got 100,000 followers and I can help you, right? Like, slide into the DMs with something that pitches your story and how you think it's connected to their brand. And I think those are the ones, I don't check our DMs. I got a team that does that, but, or if you're, finding an email or finding some other creative way to engage, I think do your homework, find that connection point, and then see how you connect that to who you are and how you might uniquely be connected to their brand, whatever that is.
And that was a follow-up question, which you kind of just answered. But the question was, when a potential influencer is contacting you or expressing interest in partnering, is a general approach good? Hey, I have 100,000 followers, so what can you do for me? It's more about, I know this brand, I'm passionate about it. Yeah. I want to give you a tailored proposal, but this is my initial, expression of interest, and then you guys can go from there.
Yeah, I think, again, it's, finding those points of connection and passion, or whatever those are, and they'll be unique to each of you. They'll be unique to any of the brands you're interested in, or, the products you love, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Promote the stuff you use, because that's the most authentic way you can do it. And or that you enjoy, right? You enjoy going out to sporting matches or restaurants or whatever it might be, or certain boutiques and shops. Like, again, I think finding the things that are authentically part of your life, and then being creative, right? Yeah. Like, however, even when you do those things, how can you creatively stand out? And maybe even show your skills, right? And you don't want to give it away for free, but, can you give them a little taste of what you might do for them? But, give them just enough where they don't have anything to use, but they'll call you back.
Right. No, I love that. And on that note, one of our clients has an established partnership with the Dynamo, which is the C. Baldwin Hotel. And we did a content shoot where we kicked a ball around, and we changed what's it called? When we kicked the ball around, we went from staff to staff. One of our content creators that did the video is not here with us today, but we kicked the ball around. If you go and look at it, it's got like over 30,000 views. It's one of the most watched reels on the hotel and the Dynamo's page. And it was just like, kind of like she said, like, give them a little taste, So we were like, oh, they just established a partnership. We wanted to create a content surrounding the partnership. And we talked about, the frame, kicking a ball around and switching frames, but when it switched frames, it switched people. So the ball kept carrying over into the frames. And it was like, that right there was something innovative, because anyone can hold up a football. So think creatively too with your content. And I know a lot of creators that do that. I look at y'all stuff all day long and I'm like, oh my God, this is so awesome, I'm truly engaged. And I do see that organicness, that creativity, that input come through.
Courtney kind of spoke to it. I scroll. I just don't, post a whole lot. But the ones that get me, I'm like, well, dang, that was an ad. They were just selling that to me, and I didn't even realize it till I was
Right.
halfway
That's the
through.
beauty. Yeah.
I'm like that. I mean, when you can find that sweet spot,
Yeah.
then I
'Cause
was
the
like,
content
all
was
right,
so
dang.
good.
I might watch that again and give them another view. You know,
Right.
The content was so good. Okay, cool. So let's transition over back to Courtney. I have a follow-up question to what you were saying about setting your rate, staying true to your value. You know, you crowdsourced, you asked friends, hey, what are you doing? And there's no magic calculator. We get asked that all the time. Hey, do you guys know how much I should be charging? And it's really about, your follower count, what the brand is that you want to work with, what you're going to be, what the deliverables are. It's going to be about your engagement rate, and it's going to be about the time and energy that you're going to put into the project, So the rates vary. People that have a rate card, we know that that's negotiable up or down because we might, sometimes we get rates and we're like, I'm telling Selena, oh my God, she's undercharging, she's way too good. She needs to raise her prices. And you want to make sure that your rate card is just an introduction to the rates. So always go starting at, okay? Because it could start at and it could go down. So my question to you is, when do you become flexible and have a little wiggle room? And do you have a soft spot for a cost or something that you're passionate about, like a food outing or a girls' night out that you just don't say no to, or that you're willing to budge for because you're like, I could do that and have fun with it, or dare I say it, even do it for free just because you love the opportunity that's been presented.
So, and I think it's a case by case basis, right? And many of y'all in the room love these emails where you get, and they're like, we need you to do this, this, and this, but we're going to offer you a meal and a swag bag. And you're like, yeah, but I got to drive an hour each way and I'm going to be there for 4 hours. Like, I don't want your swag bag, I mean, I don't say that, but
does it have a gas card?
Right. Are you picking me up? Is there hair and makeup? Like all of these things, just kidding. But, on some of those there's hair and makeup, right? So I think everything's negotiable. And I think there's certain areas that assume that it's a trade situation only. And, it's super frustrating. It's super frustrating to see because at the end of the day, this is our job and we are making a living and a meal's not going to cut it. I got money to pay for a meal, right?
Right. I always say, even when talking to my team, like, guys, don't do anything just for, a free meal or a free opportunity just because you need to take it. Like, that comes at a cost, and the cost is your time, like your investment. However, on the flip side of that coin, I have reached out to restaurants. Like, I'm traveling tomorrow and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be staying at your hotel and I want to eat at your restaurant. And here's the content that I posted the last time I was there. Here's the engagement that I got. And they got back to me within 15 minutes. They said, come on in, we'll take care of you. I'm like, thanks. They just covered my bill. But that was, something that I wanted to seek out.
And you had fun doing it, whatever, right? So, I mean, like, there's a give and a take. And I think that's really important of when you know when to ask those questions or when it's going to be serving you.
Yeah,
exactly.
When it serves you or when the opportunity just aligns. We do a lot of like little collabs and it might be, National Pizza Day. And let me get that content because I was going to order a pizza anyway. So if that's what you're doing on your day to day or if that's your favorite food, but we have become conscious of that. And so every time we do talk to clients, we, do tell them like, no, nobody's going to do that for this, but there are still some opportunities that we present to you all that are, maybe a trade or a small trade. And if you're just starting out and want to have fun with something, that's a perfect opportunity for you to just take it on and have fun with it. And
I do think it's a perfect opportunity to challenge yourself creatively, to not just walk into a restaurant and cheers and whatever, right? Like, take that to the next level of how you would do that differently, set yourself apart.
Right.
And I think there's nothing wrong with that, anytime, any stage of the game, right? Because you're going to have fun doing it. But if it's not, again, I think we go back, if it's not serving you.
Are doing it as a side hustle. There's 71% of creators are just side hustle creators, So the reason why I wanted you here is because when you are serious about doing it full time, and just the same way for my business, no one's going to call me and say, can you take me on as a client? And I have a $0 budget.
Right.
I can't work with you. So yeah, I totally get it. Totally get it. Okay. Moving on to SJ. All right, we're getting down to the end, so we're going to be wrapping up pretty quickly. We're over time. I've just got 2 last questions for you guys, then we'll do our big prize raffles. One of those is 2 pairs of tickets. We announced that we were going to give 1 pair of tickets to the East Club, but we're actually going to give away 2 pairs of tickets to the East Club. Thanks to SJ. She was like, I really like them. Let's go.
You got here and checked the room first. And
I
you were like,
did.
oh, okay, all right, we're gonna give 2 pairs.
Let's double up. No,
One
I'm
is just not
kidding.
enough for the turnout. So
So we're going to give that away, and we're going to give away all the prizes at the end. So let's just go through these last couple of questions. So SJ, you talked about NIL. We talked about NIL. How do you see influencer marketing evolving in the sports industry, particularly in the MLS in the coming years? Because MLS is trending.
It's big.
it's getting there.
Y'all are asleep on the Dynamo.
What do I see trending? It's hard to say because technology and the creativity, it just keeps building, right? There's no stopping it. I was with one of the people on my team today. She's watching our first Dash game. The 10th anniversary is next month of the first ever Dash game in Houston.
Wow.
And she's like, actually, the camera quality is so bad. She's like, I can't believe it's only been 10 years and it's so grainy. And I was like, oh my God, if you saw the 70s camera footage.
Right.
So it just doesn't stop, right? So I think, I think for me, I'm really interested to see almost what the next chapter of influencer marketing looks like. I think just like a lot of other industries, it starts, it's kind of like the Wild West, right? You go out and you explore a new frontier. To me, that influencer marketing is probably at a point where the new frontier has kind of been gotten to the other side. If we compare it to moving west in the US, we're probably up to the Rocky Mountains. So like, what's the next iteration of influencer marketing look like? I don't know, but what I do feel is like there's probably another big kind of trend coming, right? There's more, it started out Wild West. People are just, oh wow, I can have this person talk about my product, and if I give them a little of something, whatever they're helping me sell, that's a cool thing. But there wasn't a lot of structure, right? So now there's structures. There's agencies that can help connect the brands and the influencers and give guardrails, right? So that to me is like, okay, it's now matured to this point. So I think it's more about what's somebody going to push the limits on next, where then the industry kind of has to grow and mature within that. And I'm trying to compare it to, well, let's go back to the sports analogy, right? Like college sports were just about wanting to keep playing sports as an athlete. And then the schools learned how to make a whole bunch of money off of it. And then the athletes are like, you're making money off me, and I'm getting an education, but that's all I'm getting. And that doesn't seem like a comparable or an okay kind of reciprocal relationship. So now they're looking for ways to get paid, or at least be able to get paid, even if the school's not paying for them. So short answer is I don't know, but I do feel like it's probably at a turning point in the next couple of years. And, 5 years from now, we all get back together. We're going to be like, wow, this is where we were. And SJ said, they're on a new frontier. And she didn't know what it was, but hopefully then I do know what it was. So,
and I know we're talking about, how influencer marketing is evolving within the sports industry, but I've seen just the athletes themselves, college, NFL, MLS, become the influencer and do massive things. Brands are just latching onto that very quickly. There's 5-year-olds that I know that are starting in school in sports. I know their parents, and they're like, they've already got their brand kit ready for that kid, because in 2 years that kid's going to make $1,000 a post from his page.
Well, and I'm going to go back to what Courtney said. Finding the things that you're willing to say yes to and not to. And I'm going to give you a little peek into the industry, and I'm going to go back to another Apple example. So Apple is finding ways to, or starting a new program, and it's an ambassador program. They're only picking 11 athletes in the MLS. Hector, who I mentioned earlier, is one of them because of his influence and global relevancy, especially down in Mexico. So they pitched me this idea. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like, you're going to put us in store windows when the season kicks off with Hector and his Dynamo gear, and you're going to have him on a playlist, and you're going to have him on some podcasts and all the other things in the Apple ecosystem. We pitched that to him almost 45 days ago. Now, there's no compensation. In my head, I'm like, Hector, yes, you're a big superstar in some of the soccer worlds, but I'm talking about Apple global top 2 or 3 brands in the world.
Right.
Don't cut your nose off to spite your face here, buddy. Right?
Yeah.
That's my point of view, right? It also helps the Dynamo a whole bunch. But I also have to respect the fact that he believes he has a certain worth. And
Well, he
wants to
absolutely
be
does,
compensated,
because
right?
they wouldn't be asking him if he didn't.
Correct.
Right.
So there's that.
So that's where they get, right?
Yeah.
And he has to, I can't force him. I can try to help him understand, like, this could also lead to other things.
Yeah.
But again, he has to make that decision. I just need him to make one at this point.
Right. Like, come on, Hector.
But I think that's an interesting, kind of relevant in the moment, kind of to your thought, Karen, and then what you've been talking about of the hard decisions you have to make, thinking about your own personal worth
Yeah.
and brand.
Yeah. I love that. But you got to weigh it out.
Yeah.
And we go back to the foundation where the foundation is he's a soccer player, but now Apple's knocking on his door and giving him one of those trade deals. And you just got to weigh it out, because honestly, like, let's just say that you're not in sports for the rest of your life. They transition to full-time influencers once they're retired. They have to build their persona, right? And their influence and their audience, because that's what pays you after the sports. So love this topic. All right. So consistency, let's talk about that a little bit. So consistency is key in content creation. And you put out stuff every day. Every time I open my phone, I'm like, there she is. She is 7 a.m. She is on it. And I honestly, want to know, like, how do you establish that regular content cadence? And how do you prevent content burnout?
I don't know the answer to the second one, because I'm trying, like, the content burnout. I don't know. I mean, there are days where it's usually on the weekends that I take a step back because I'm so bombarded with it Monday through Friday as my job, right? I treat this just like I did in television. I had multiple deadlines a day for multiple years, and that's how I operate, right? So I can't operate without a schedule. And I'm not like, some days I don't even know where I'm going. I'm not that regimented, but I need to know when I'm posting something, and I curate it a certain way. So some things have to move around, or maybe like the deadline shifts or something like that, right? That I can move that around. But Monday through Friday, non-negotiable, I post every single day with multiple stories, because look, we can't go away, right? We've got to be relevant. You can't just like ghost people for a week and then be like, oh, hey, I'm back. Like, it doesn't work, right? So you've got to figure out what's enough for you. And so that, it's so good to hear you say that, because I didn't know that, like, people pick that up about me, like how I post and whatever. So it's nice to hear, because I really just I need to do this every single day. And over the last year, that's what I've done.
So you have your cadence is a daily post.
Absolutely.
Okay. Is that 7 days a week or 5 days a week?
It's more like 5. Some weeks are 4, some weeks are 7.
Okay.
It just it depends. Those weekend days are, okay, I posted on a Sunday, and this was a reel recently, a couple weeks ago. It literally was 6 seconds long. It was funny, and I wasn't planning on it, but it just kind of happened. And it was, I went somewhere today and somebody was talking about it. So I was like, oh, that's cute. But it was one of those things that I didn't even plan for it. So when I'm actually creating something, whether it's a collab or it's something that I want to do, and again, this is the journalist in me, that I storyboard it out.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
Because that's how I operate. I physically tell a story. So that I can't shoot something without knowing in my head
Yeah.
the beginning, the middle, and the end.
Okay, awesome. I don't have it all that figured out, and honestly, I don't consider myself a full-time creator, because I consider myself more of a full-time business owner, and so that always takes precedent over my content. But I am a natural storyteller, and I have been, sharing content since the beginning of Instagram. If you scroll back all the way to the first, post, it was back 10 years ago. But establishing that cadence and treating it like a job. Like she said, it's just a job. So you got to show up the same way we show up for our day-to-day pay jobs.
Because remember, the payoff comes from the followers, right? Like the people that are opening up their phone and they're like, well, where is she? What'd she do today?
Yeah.
Why isn't she here? Right?
Yeah. Well, and again, major consumer, not a creator. I'm always, so, when you follow locations, there's a place I just went on vacation down in Jamaica. I probably see the same post from a different person's point of view every day, and it still brings me joy.
Oh, fun.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the other thing too, even in your own personal lives or what have you. I think sometimes what you think is mundane or just repetitive, sharing it through a slightly different point of view or way, it's just something that literally while I was sitting here, I was thinking about consistency of posts, right? And because I'm like, as a business, I'm like, don't you get sick of putting that? But I'm like, no, because they're telling their story. And that's the experience when you go to that resort. So
I will say this too, and everybody's going to have a different, approach or what they want to share, or what they feel comfortable sharing, right? So for me, again, like that spaghetti on the wall, right? Because I felt like I was already sharing so many different aspects of my life that when I'm planning the content, I'm like, oh no, too many outfit posts. Like I can't, that's too much. I've got to do something else. So it's either, if you guys follow me, it's either Oscar, my dog, which by the way, my For You page is either nails or golden doodles.
Same.
Or there's also people falling, but there's that.
Engagement rings now. I'm trying to send it out.
That's like manifesting it. But like, there's food, there's lifestyle, and lifestyle is like everything, right? Like that could be like you brushing your hair, right? But I feel like every day I'm learning something from you. I'm learning something from you. I'm seeing something that I'm so proud of. Like, look at her go. And you know what? Say that on someone's post. Like your friend's post, comment on your friend's post, follow the person that you just met tonight and engage with them, right? Because you want them to engage with you, but be authentic. And if you're liking it, it's just like you see somebody in Kroger or whatever, or somebody turns to you and says, gosh, you know what? I don't know you, but I love your dress and I love the fact that you paired leopard heels with that. Go. It lifted you up. It lifted me up. You sprinkle a little sunflower, a little sunshine in someone's life. That's what a like does. Right? I know we're living in a world of hurting things, but but that does wonders for not only us, but it does wonders for your job and what we're doing, right? Like those friends and people that you don't really know that are out there commenting, liking, doing all of that. Those are your people. Those are your cheerleaders.
I genuinely am invested in Alexandra's cooking, Nadine's cooking. Like, I love all of y'all content. Nutrition's trip, first, Flow style, your style. So much so that I hired Flo off of Instagram to style my outfit tonight. Because I was like, girl, you've got to come get me together. I don't know. I can't even think about what I'm wearing anymore. It's crazy. And so I'm genuinely invested in all of y'all's posts. And when I comment and like, it's just literally the way that I'm bonding with you at that time. It's not because I have to do it or because I feel the need to. Like, Linda, I ordered your macarons from your page. So I'm genuinely invested, and I think that's so important because you're gonna get back what you put out. So definitely. Okay, we're down to our last question. And one of the last question that I asked you, SJ, was, how do you see influencer marketing evolving in the sports industry? And then we kind of tailed off into how the industry is evolving, and we are at the new frontier. The new frontier of social media was 10 years ago, and then it surged again with the pandemic because everyone was like, oh, we can't even see people in real life anymore. We gotta be on social media. So our business picked up way, so much so after that. But now with influencer marketing, we're obviously at the new frontier, and we've seen it peaking for the last 3 years, and it's just evolving. But going back to what you said, it's just about that spontaneous, that creativity, and I gotta let you guys know, the Dynamo social media team is on fire.
They're good.
I love following them. And so are there any tips and tricks that you can give us to just employ that high energy content other than being on the field in the game, which is already high energy?
Yeah. It's something I talk to my creators with a lot. And I think, how did I phrase this the other day? They're perfectionists. Right? And they want to make sure that whatever video they and the social team have decided they're going to put out for whatever it is, most of them storyboard, which is usually good. But I think sometimes they let the perfectionism get in the way of the timeliness or the authenticity of the kind of raw material, and they overthink it. To the point where it's either they've missed the window where it could be more relevant, and if it wasn't quite perfect, if they would have got it out there sooner, people would have been more engaged with it because too much time had passed. And just finding that balance of not making it always to your thoughts of perfection, but knowing where in that spectrum it is, to kind of hit the mark, whether it's because it's in the moment or because it looks too polished and then people are like, So I think that for me is something that I push my team on continually, because I think it's something that sometimes we just get too caught up in. And for us, a lot of times it's based on missing the moment. So like we had our jersey launch. I love that you're in purple. We have a purple jersey for the Dynamo. It's on fire. We had a jersey launch event, and it was scheduled, the recap was scheduled out at 10 o'clock the next day. I didn't see it. 2 hours later, I'm like, where's it? At 3 o'clock, I go downstairs. I'm like, guys, where's the recap video? It's almost 24 hours since the event. We're supposed to be like, you missed this. You should have been there. He's like, I'm still editing it. And I was like,
I'm already getting heart palpitations thinking about this.
And then I went to the social gal and I was like, B, what's going on? She's like, I don't know. I just needed a quick 30-second recap. Well, he was producing almost a 2-minute recap. So he had missed the brief and he wanted it to be perfect. And so we put it out much later than we should have, and it was too long, and then the engagement dropped. So I think that's too, right? Like, kind of like stick to what the right brief is, and then the process to get there.
Right.
Can I just bounce off of that? Because I think you hit this so perfectly on the head, right? The analysis paralysis. We've all done it. And I'm going to quote my TV husband, even though we're not, don't see each other every single day. We are still TV husband and wife. We're still, no, we're not married.
No, I know.
Oh, okay. No, but we're still very close. We're married to other people. No, but we're still very close. So I came from the news side first. That was the bulk of my career, right? So when you think about an anchor or reporter, right, you're perfect. You're not making mistakes. Your facts are checked, everything, right? I could write it down. I didn't have to worry about punctual, I wasn't AP style. I wasn't a newspaper reporter, but it was perfect. The hair, the makeup, the clothing, everything had to be perfect. You couldn't stumble your words, all of it, right? Forever. That was the bulk of the career. And I've got some great stories on that, but that'll be for a whole nother day. But so then I transitioned to lifestyle, right? And that was so weird because that show is not scripted, and you sit down and they're like, okay, you've got 12 minutes to talk, and you're like, huh? There's nothing, where's the script? There's no script. So that took me a minute to really peel the onion back and be like, oh, but what he told me was, and I say this multiple times over and over in my head, but the first time he said it to me, I was like, what? But he said, perfect is boring.
Yeah. That's a good point.
But I spent my entire career trying to be perfect, right? I did, because if you're not perfect, you're not believable. I'm gonna be stumbling over my words or not knowing someone's name, mispronouncing a name, mispronouncing a city, all of those things, right? perfect is boring.
Yeah.
And some of the funniest stuff on our feeds in your stories or whatever is like the camera falling over. Like, don't re-record it.
Yeah.
Don't be that person.
Right.
The bloopers are sometimes
They're great.
yeah.
And you think it's funny, and then you're going to save it and be like, oh yeah, look what happened. You know, but like, you're going to show it to some, right? Right? So like, just share it, because it's real life, you know? It's real life.
That's where the magic is.
Yeah, and I love, because like, in a corporate world, right?
Yeah.
Like, again, it's the image on the line. It's all of these other things, just like it is for us. But analysis, I mean, we've all done it. We've missed the deadline. We've missed the mark. We've done it. And we're like, oh, well, that was a missed opportunity. But learn from it. And don't be afraid to make mistakes, really.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to learn from your storyboard. And you also said everything's pre-planned. You know, we know that within 24 hours, we got to have the recap reel, you know, go out. Whenever you go to an event, you know, you're kind of already have a set time of when you want to get your content out. I know if I don't go home that night and push it out, like it's going to sit in my phone for 2 years. So I'm not going to get around to it. So I try to do everything like
I will say I don't do that.
Okay.
I don't. Unless it's something like where I'm giving you a story or something, unless I am not going to sit somewhere and edit a reel that's going to be pushed out, because my content already went out for the day. So I communicate that.
You're not working in real time.
I'm not working in real time.
You have it planned.
And I communicate that. There was a contract that I had recently, and they were like, you're going to need it at the same time. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it the same day. I'm not going to come here and do this and then spend another hour editing.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a whole day.
And no one knew that was the day you were there.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
What does it
It's
matter?
the Hollywood magic, right?
Right.
Like,
Unless we're doing a preview. Okay, then I'll get it out by that day.
Yeah.
You know, but like, I'm not doing same day.
Yeah.
No.
It's crazy. But when we work with, no, I wouldn't say influencers, but when we work with celebrities or artists or rappers, like I gotta turn the content around in 30 minutes or less, because I need it in their phone. I need to airdrop it. I need to make sure you post everything correctly, because I know like Slim Thug's not gonna give me his phone, you know, so I make sure like we get everything, but we storyboard everything. We have 4 cameras, 4 different angles. Everything comes together. My editor's on site. We turn it around. Thing gets 1 million views, and it's like, oh my God, his management is like, how'd you guys do that?
Well, because you got run over by a truck. You know what I mean? Like you did whatever you did to make it happen.
Yeah. And sometimes the deliverables are like, no, on that day, on the spot. And so my team just gets to work. So it's very interesting, but it's a delicate balance between same day content. And how many of you guys have had that accidental viral reel that like it was just casual?
Yeah.
You were just like, oh, I just feel good about it right now. I'm just gonna drop it.
Absolutely.
And then boom, and that's like your Sunday thing. You did a same day thing.
Yeah. Now I will say, like sporting events, something like that. The NCAA's, all of that. You know, you have to figure out what the timeliness is, right?
Yeah.
You're at, of course, that has to come immediate.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the whole editing thing, same day, it's a lot, because I think people that don't edit don't get it.
Yeah.
That's a huge. Don't get it. They don't get it.
If you don't edit, you don't get it.
And y'all, let me tell, literally and figuratively. And I came from the world that I would hand off to an editor.
Yeah.
So I taught myself how to edit. And that was like, you know, that's why I had to storyboard it, because I had to give somebody else the control to put that A through Z together and say, this is my vision, go edit.
Yeah. And a lot of y'all are doing the whole cycle. You know, the whole cycle, like from the storyboard to the content. And I've gotten to the point where I don't try to record my own content. Like I use my content guy back there, Chris, you're amazing. But you know, everyone's like, oh, who's your content guy? I'm like, me. You know why? Because I storyboarded it, I directed the thing, and yes, the editing is the magic too, but the storytelling is where the magic starts.
You got to have the base to edit.
It takes multiple people, right?
Yeah.
Right. So on that note, guys, okay, last question for Courtney, and we'll get this wrapped up. We'll go through the prices, but I think like just as a creator, I just talked about how many people play a role in our lives. And so we all need people in our corner, not only hitting the likes and leaving a comment, you better save it and share it to 10 friends because I need all the engagement. But we all need people in our corner just advocating for our wins. So becoming a successful creator often requires that support system. So it's like the support system and QuickBooks and, you know, your invoicing and your contractors and your content buddies. How many of you guys have a content buddy?
Of course,
like, girl,
yes,
come on.
absolutely.
We're about to go eat, you know? So who are those people in your business, in your influencer business that kind of play a significant role right now?
Well, first and foremost, it's my family. My husband has been super supportive in all of this, the transition and understanding that, like, I mean, he married a public person anyway, so he knows that role and has been great about it for many years. My kids, because they're constantly I'm being, you know, hey, you want to do this video? My younger one's way more into it than my older one. But so the family dynamic has to be on board, right? Because you can't just be like, yeah, I'm a mom, but you never see my kids, right? Like, I mean, you've got to be, the dog is always in. Like today I was doing something and he's like, hey, like, you know, he's ready and able. Like he's all in. He wants his own channel.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Send me the contract. No. So there's that. One of my dear friends, Kate Robinson, is here and she's one of my content buddies. We have the Brunette Bunch is what we call ourselves. There's another, a couple girls that we always go and do fun things with. And so we're always constantly bouncing off ideas. And the other two aren't here tonight, but those are the girls that I can call and say, hey, creatively, I hit a stump. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm thinking. Help me. Does this make sense? It's okay to do that. I mean, I've been telling stories for years and I still don't know what I'm doing, right? Like, cause you still are like, ooh, is this good or can I be better? Right? And I get those phone calls too. You know, like, should I do this? Or I'm thinking about doing this. And so having that two-way street, I mean, look, women like to share, right? I mean, that's why influencing evolved because we were constantly telling our neighbors, our friends what we were buying and shopping and, hey, I bought it here and bought this there, whatever. It just kind of like was a natural thing to happen. So having that bunch that I can, you know, call at any time or text at any time and say, hey, I've got this, or, you know, the Brunette Bunch, they know like, hey, I'm doing this. I need you girls. This is the day we're going.
And when you post, do you share your content with them? Yeah. Because that's like your pod, your support.
Absolutely.
Group, you know?
And as a matter of fact, I had a collaboration with somebody that recently that said, hey, I need that group that you did that with, that's the group I want for this.
Okay, cool.
I was like, all right. So, I mean, like, you know, and we're close. Like we get together and there's not a second that goes by and it's not all business. It's fun. And then we catch up with each other and it's all dynamics. There's moms, there's, you know, married, no kids, there's no dogs, there, you know, there's everybody. Yeah. So it's a great girl vibe.
Yeah. I called my coach the other day, my business coach, and I was like, you're not posting your dog enough. I mean, like, I know you're supposed to coach me, but I just need to see more of your dog, okay? Like, I'm mad. How are your dogs doing? You haven't posted them in a while.
Where are they?
Yeah. But that's so important to have people in our corner, and we try to support each other. I know that there's a lot of, you know, a pod community. I think we used to even have one. We used to have a pod, right? For social behavior. We haven't had one in years, but I think that community support is just kind of evolved organically. I'm not in one now, but I definitely think that leaning on people like that and just having that support system is very, very important. And I know the moment that you told your husband, like, hey, I'm going to be a full-time content creator, he was probably like, okay, are you okay?
Right. Well, you know what he said to me was, what's the business plan?
Right.
And I was like, what does that mean? Told you I'm a journalist for a reason. I like to tell stories. Like, I'm not a business person. So I was like, I'll get back to you on that. You know, like, hang on. I don't know.
Business plan.
Guys, I don't even know how to open up a spreadsheet. I don't like the QuickBook thing. He does all of that. I can't even, No. It's not even in my, I have a hard time with Dropbox. Kate knows this already.
And imagine
like, can you just send me the photo? I don't know. I can't get in the Dropbox.
Yeah. And imagine like having to follow up on your invoices. Like if you've never been a business owner, and you gotta call somebody about your money.
Yeah.
Like, that's uncomfortable.
Well, I don't
You know?
mind that. I'm like, hey, I haven't heard from you. Like, I had to knock on people's doors at 2:30 in the morning, 12 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not afraid to ask for money.
Okay.
There's no shame in my game.
That's good.
I've interviewed you on your worst day.
Right.
You welcome me in your house. I'm going to ask for my money.
Right.